Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. It is day 2 of the Senate confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's been in the chair now more than 9 hours. We'll go live there. Also play some of you what took place today, including the nonsense from idiots like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley. It continues. Also on today's show, folks, Senator Lindsey Graham, yeah, he did what he did. Also, the family of the Texas black man gunned down in his front yard has filed a lawsuit. The attorney for Charion Lockett's family will update us on the case. In Alabama, a black store owner calls 911 for help as his store was getting robbed. So how does he end up with a broken jaw and facing several charges? A white California couple is charged with a hate crime for murdering a black Navy veteran. And the California Reparations Task Force is making some progress. The chairperson will be here to update us on the first state-initiated reparations initiative. In our Marketplace segment, he used to beat drums for some great artists like the Notorious B.I.G., Queen Latifah, and so many others. Now he's trying to beat out his competition with his soul snacks. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, second day of the Senate confirmation hearing for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. They're in recess. She testified for more than 9 hours today. They will come back for more questioning. It was quite a busy day. As usual, you had, nonsense coming from folks like Senator Lindsey Graham, as well as folks like Ted Cruz. And so we're going to show you some of what took place today. You want to see a meltdown? Look at this chief whiner, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Just, oh my God, the left, they were targeting Judge Childs. Okay, another black woman from South Carolina who's being considered. He hasn't gotten over it. Check out this wimp.
What is your judicial philosophy?
So I have a methodology that I use in my cases in order to ensure that I am ruling impartially, and that...
So your judicial philosophy is to rule impartially?
No, my judicial philosophy is to rule impartially and to rule consistent with the limitations on my authority as a judge. And so my methodology actually helps me to do that in every case.
So you wouldn't say that you're an activist judge?
I would not say that.
Okay. So we'll have 20 minutes more later on, but here's what I would say. That every group that wants to pack the court, that believes this court is a bunch of right-wing nuts that are going to destroy America, that consider the Constitution trash, all wanted you picked. And this is all I can say, is the fact that so many of these left-wing radical groups that would destroy the law as we know it declared war on Michelle Childs and supported you is problematic for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Graham. Let me mention a few points here. Congressman Jim Clyburn was a strong supporter of Michelle Childs, and now I believe he is publicly supporting your nomination. And Michelle Childs has been nominated by President Biden to be a circuit judge, and she will be considered by this committee as quickly as possible. On the issue of Guantanamo, there are currently 39 Guantanamo detainees remaining. The annual budget for Guantanamo is $540 million per year, which means each of these detainees is being held at the expense of $12 or $13 million per year. If they would be incarcerated at Florence, Colorado, the Supermax prison, federal prison, the amount would be dramatically less. Since 9/11, nearly 1,000 convicted in the United States on terrorism charges. Since 2009, with the beginning of the Obama administration, the recidivism rate of the Guantanamo detainees released is 5%.
Mr. Chairman, according to the Department, Director of National Intelligence, is 31%. Somebody is wrong here. If you're going to talk about what I said, I'm going to respond to what you said. If we close Gitmo and move them to Colorado, do you support indefinite detention under the law of war for these detainees?
I would just say I'm giving the facts. And
the answer is no.
I want to make sure that it's clear. The 31% you referred to goes back to the year 2009? 2000.
What does it matter when it goes back to? We had them and they got loose and they started killing people.
Well, I could just say that...
if you're one of the people killed in 2005, does it matter to you when we release them?
Suggest that a president of your own party released him in...
I'm suggesting the system has failed miserably, and advocates to change this system, like she was advocating, would destroy our ability to protect this country. We're at war. We're not fighting a crime. This is not some passage of time event. As long as they're dangerous, I hope they all die in jail if they're going to go back and kill Americans. It won't bother me one bit if 39 of them die in prison. That's a better outcome than letting them go. And if it costs $500 million to keep them in jail, keep them in jail, because they're going to go back to the fight. Look at the friggin' Afghan government. It's made up of former detainees at Gitmo. This whole thing by the left about this war ain't working.
Let me also note that Larry Thompson, who served as Deputy Attorney General under President George W. Bush, Oren Kerr, Special Counsel, Viet Den, who served as Assistant Attorney General for Legal Policy in the George W. Bush administration, John Bellinger, and former D.C. Circuit Judge, Solicitor General, and Independent Counsel Ken Starr were also prominent conservative lawyers signing a letter defending attorneys who represented Guantanamo Bay detainees. I don't believe that we should associate that activity as being inconsistent with our constitutional values.
That's called shut the hell up. All right, then of course we really had the stuck on stupid person known as Josh Hawley, okay, who just got schooled by Judge Brown Jackson. Watch this train wreck.
I've described the videos that we have. You say earlier in the case, you talk about how heinous these crimes are, and you describe them to your credit. You describe how heinous it is to your credit, and yet here you are giving him 3 months and apologizing to him and saying you feel sorry for the anguish it's caused him, and also saying you think that sex offenders are truly shunned in our society. So just talk about that. Help me understand. I mean, is he a victim? Is that your view here? Is that why you said this? Is that what you meant by it?
Senator, I again don't have the entire record. I remember in that particular case, I considered it to be unusual, in part for the reasons that I described. I remember in that case that defense counsel was arguing for probation, in part because he argued that here we had a very young man, just graduated from high school. He presented all of his diplomas and certificates and the things that he had done and argued, consistent with what I was seeing in the record, that this particular defendant had gotten into this in a way that was, I thought, inconsistent with some of the other cases that I had seen. Part of what a judge is doing, as required by Congress, is thinking about this case, thinking about unwarranted sentencing disparities, that's in the statute, other cases, other determinations that a judge may have made about this. I don't remember in detail this particular case, but I do recall it being unusual. And so my only point to you is that judges are doing the work of assessing in each case a number of factors that are set forward by Congress, all against the backdrop of heinous criminal behavior. But the guidelines are no longer mandatory. Congress has not corrected, as you would say, the Supreme Court's determination about that. Justice Scalia's decision that the guidelines are not mandatory. Congress has not said that. And Congress has given judges factors to consider. This, in my view, was an unusual case that had a number of factors that the defendant was pointing out, that the government was pointing out, that the probation office was pointing out. And I sent this 18-year-old to 3 months in federal prison under circumstances that were presented in this case because I wanted him to understand that what he had done was harmful, that what he had done was unlawful, that what he had done violated the law and needed to be punished, not only by prison, but also by all of the other things that the law requires of a judge who is sentencing in this area.
But Judge, with all due respect, and I'm telling you what, I'll be direct with you. I am questioning your discretion, your judgment. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not questioning you as a person.
Then, of course, we have, let me just say it, the asshole of the United States Senate. And that's Ted Cruz of Texas, my native state. Yes, the show's called Roland Martin Unfiltered, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. And that's exactly what he is. If y'all want to see stupid, listen to this fool talk about critical race theory.
I've never studied critical race theory, and I've never used it. It doesn't come up in the work that I do as a judge.
So with respect, I find that a curious statement because you gave a speech in April of 2015 at the University of Chicago in which you described the job you do as a judge. And you said sentencing is just plain interesting because it melds together myriad types of law, criminal law, and of course constitutional law, critical race theory. So you described in a speech to a law school what you were doing as critical race theory. And so I guess I would ask, what did you mean by that when you gave that speech?
With respect, Senator, the quote that you are mentioning there was about sentencing policy. It was not about sentencing. I was talking about the policy determinations of bodies like the Sentencing Commission when they look at a laundry list of various academic subjects as they consider what the policy should be.
Okay, but you were vice chair of the Sentencing Commission, so let me ask again, what did you mean by, because that was an official responsibility of yours, what did you mean by what you were doing was critical race?
What I meant was that there are a number of, that slide does not show the entire laundry list of different academic disciplines that I said
relate to sentencing policy, but none of that relates to what I do as a judge.
So, Judge Jackson, all of us will agree that no one should be discriminated against because of race. When you just testified a minute ago that you didn't know if critical race theory was taught in K through 12, I will confess I find that statement a little hard to reconcile with the public record, because if you look at the Georgetown Day School's curriculum, it is filled and overflowing with critical race theory. That among the books that are either assigned or recommended, they include Critical Race Theory, an introduction. They include The End of Policing, an advocacy for abolishing police. They include How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. They include literally stacks and stacks of books, and I'll tell you two of the ones that were most stunning. They include a book called Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram Kendi. And there are portions of this book that I find really quite remarkable. One portion of the book says babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Another portion of the book, they recommend to babies confess when being racist. Now, this is a book that is taught at Georgetown Day School to students in pre-K through second grade, so 4 through 7 years old. Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
Senator, I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist, or though they are not valued, or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are oppressors. I don't believe in any of that. But what I will say is that when you asked me whether or not this was taught in schools, critical race theory, my understanding is that critical race theory as an academic theory is taught in law schools. And to the extent that you were asking the question, I understood you to be addressing public schools. Georgetown Day School, just like the religious school that Justice Barrett was on the board of, is a private school.
Okay, so you agree critical race theory is taught at Georgetown Day School?
I don't know, because the board is not, the board does not control the curriculum. The board does not focus on that. That's not what we do as board members, so I'm actually not sure.
Well,
I can't listen to any more of these fools. I mean, I could play more clips, but I mean, really, y'all are just witnessing just how dumb we are dealing with people who are on the United States, in the United States Senate, on the Judiciary Committee, in terms of what their thinking is, how they operate. It makes no sense whatsoever. All right, let's go to my esteemed legal panel. We've assembled y'all. He leads the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law. Glad to have Damon Hewitt back on the show. Damon, glad to see you here. Also on the show is Tanya Washington Hicks, professor at Georgia State University College of Law. Danielle Holly Walker, Dean and Professor of Law, Howard University School of Law. Joan Bullock, Dean and Professor of Law at Texas Southern University. Sorry, Tennessee, that's called the real TSU. I'm from Houston, I'm partial, so sorry. I know Glenda Glover, you don't like that at Tennessee State, but it's all good. All right, so let's get right into this. Houstonians go first. So Joan, I'll start with you. I mean, it had to, you had to sit here and be laughing as you witnessed these folks try to come up with all kind of nonsense, throwing all kind of things out that really made no sense whatsoever. And Judge Brown Jackson doing her best not to laugh in their faces.
I have to tell you first that I am just very much impressed with her composure. She had extreme poised in answering the questions, and she did not take the bait at all in terms of losing that composure, nor getting into legal opinions and to her particular opinions on a particular subject. So I thought she did extremely well, and more importantly, her training as a lawyer and as a jurist was on full display. So the more they attacked her, the more she showed that she is the appropriate nominee.
This just desire, Danielle, to try to invoke critical race theory into everything, and he's bringing up these books, and she just definitely said, "I'm sorry, you know that's a private school, and you were discussing public school." Does two different things.
Yeah, I mean, has really nothing to do with her role as a judge or as a potential justice on the Supreme Court. And I think the idea that a sitting judge would be paying attention to books that are in a private school that she sits on the board of is really ridiculous. But we know what these attacks are really about, which is to try to make the assertion that Black lawyers, Black judges, even judges who are going to be on the Supreme Court are somehow intertwined with critical race theory, which in itself is a false assumption. And I think that, Senator Cruz, in asking questions, particularly, it was a deeply offensive, line of questioning. And obviously, Judge Jackson that's why we ask about judicial temperament, right? Most of us would not be able to withstand what she has withstood over the last day and will withstand tomorrow. And I think she's displayed tremendous amounts of patience. The clip you showed with Senator Hawley was also one where she needed to really show off her judicial temperament, because it's something that most of us would not be able to do.
Damon, when we look at, again, what the role here is, you have this attempt to play gotcha. But the one that really I thought was just the most embarrassing was Lindsey Graham, who just can't get over the fact that President Joe Biden did not pick Judge Michelle Childs. He was crying yesterday, oh, she would have gotten 60 votes and I would have supported her and Senator Tim Scott. Yeah, I also recall Senator Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott saying they were going to pass the George Floyd Justice Act.
Right, exactly. And look, 60 votes isn't 100 votes, and all she really needs is 50, right? Just to be frank and honest. And I think what Senator Graham may be worried about is, number one, not getting his way to his preferred person, and also the fact that on this one we're going to win, right? This nominee will be confirmed. I have every confidence of that. But the most important thing is that so much of what he said, what Senator Cruz said, what Senator Hawley said, was not even actually about this nominee. It was actually about some other culture war that tends to be dragged out whenever folks feel like they're getting behind in the polls or when demographic shift is threatening their power, their majority. This is about a culture war. It's not about this highly qualified nominee. And I have to tell you, her temperament, as Danielle Holly Walker said, is really on point. But also, woe betide those who appear before her who come with nonsense, right? Whether it be on the D.C. Circuit or the Supreme Court, because she is about the law, she is about the facts, and if anything, she's about rigor and discipline, not nonsense.
But Tanya, we must pay attention to the line of questioning, because really what we're dealing with, and my book drops in September, is white fear. I mean, these are white folks who cannot handle that non-white men are now in positions of power.
Yes. I mean, her very presence in that space, right, is an affront to white supremacy, which signals that maleness and whiteness enjoy primacy. And she's gracious, she's articulate. What she delivered today was a master class on what it means to be a judge, to be disciplined in your thinking, to be reasoned in your approach. Her temperament was gracious and patient. She listened to the questions, she responded to them.
Looks like her Skype froze.
Fear.
Okay, there we go.
The fear that you referenced was also on full display. I mean, when someone storms out of a proceeding because they don't get the reaction they are seeking, I mean, that's irresponsible and behavior that's unbecoming of a senator.
Well, and look, the fact of the matter is, Democrats have 50 votes. Damon, I know you said, hey, she's going to get it confirmed. You got two special children in Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, so Lord knows what happens there. You may very well have anywhere from 3 to 5 Republicans who might support her: Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, possibly Rob Portman. Could be Toomey from Pennsylvania, but really, what we have here is this need to try to score points, and again, position her as being some strange individual. Joan, what really cracked me up the most was trying to attack her for the briefs dealing with Guantanamo Bay, and then you had Senator Hirono, who was just masterful by saying, weren't there 20 former federal judges who asked you to write that, and they were appointed by Republicans and Democrats? And it was sort of like, yeah, they didn't mention that. And then you saw the attempt with Ted Cruz with the partial quote. You know, whenever you see critical race theory, boldface, ... you always got to ask, well, what comes after the ... And so we see exactly what's going on here, wanting to make her out to be this left wing, far left loon, when that's actually not the case.
That's right. I mean, they're just trying to get her dirty. They're trying to get some airtime with talking points. I was stunned that Senator Hawley, did not interrupt this nominee, this witness, so to speak, at this hearing for probably 2 straight minutes. And I think it was indicative of her bearing. I think she obviously took command of that interaction without question. And I think that's a harbinger of what she'll do on this bench. Because, look, the Supreme Court is not theater, but let's be honest, there's a little bit of theater component, right, in terms of when you're witnessing, right? And it's really about the intellectual dialogue and the exchange and how we actually can funnel, whether it be a litigant before you, whether it be other judges on that bench, especially a 9-person bench like the Supreme Court, how you can guide the conversation to the relevant points, not to points that are distractions or points that are just trying to buttress an outcome determinative view. Points that are really about the matters at hand, the matters that matter to Black folks in America, the matters that matter to all folks in America, not some type of culture war that some of these folks are trying to propagate.
Joan?
I think she's done a wonderful job in showing that it's all about her record. It's not about the nonsense. And that is what the others were trying to distract from her record. Her record is about, as on the appellate level, is about the record before her, about the data that has been provided, and her making decisions based upon that record. And on the trial level, she showed how the humanity that comes into understanding and interpreting the law or applying the law against someone, as in that one case with the 18-year-old in the child pornography case. It's a situation where she's looking at all the factors. It's not about theater. It's about people's lives. And and she was very, very good at staying with her record. And that is what this hearing is all about. It's about her record and what she was able to demonstrate as to her being a jurist, someone who is well capable of being at the next Supreme Court justice.
Hold tight 1 second. Let's go live to the hearing room right now. Look like you've got Senator Kennedy of Louisiana. Guys, go live, please.
My staff just says we just got to.
Let's hear what he got to say.
So I'm very upset. I joined Ted Cruz.
Good.
Mr. Chairman.
That's an alliance that's well known.
Yes. Mr. Chairman. I do think it's significant. We've had now referenced some pre-sentence reports, and we've got this material that references recommendations made by the Office of Adult Probation and Parole.
Reports.
Well, okay, but we've got critical information that is contained within them. The recommendation made by the Office of Adult Probation and Parole in these cases is something that's drawn from the pre-sentence report. It seems to me that if we're going to have a jot for jot selective incorporation of information in there. We ought to have access to the whole report. So I respectfully request that we be given access to these reports. They've been made now by a member of the committee in reliance on information that we haven't had access to, and I think we need to be given those. You can't.
Senator, I'd like to draw this to a conclusion. I can tell you what I know. And
well, so would I.
More. And here's the point. Most of this information was published in the Washington Post 5 days ago, all right? This is not confidential information. When the Hawley attack on the judge started, we requested more information, the White House did, and then shared it with us within the day, and you now have the same copy that we have. End of story.
Is it fair for you to characterize Senator Hawley's questions or the questions raised by any of us as an attack? It's not a personal attack. This is
let me just tell you,
we've raised a legitimate question regarding sentencing, regarding the most heinous crimes imaginable.
Oh, come on.
So these are legitimate questions, Mr. Chairman. Don't call them attacks.
Well, I can just tell you, I have characterized them as attacks and other things as well. I think it's pretty clear what's going on here, and now you have all the information we have.
So Mr. Chairman, for example, in the questioning about the Hawkins case, Judge Jackson said she relied on the factors, relied on probation's recommendation. We just found out in what you just handed us that in the Hawkins case, the probation office recommended 18 months, and Judge Jackson only sentenced him to 3 months. That's you can get more than that almost for a speeding ticket. And
Senator,
this committee, given that she raised it as the basis for her sentence, it is highly relevant to the committee's analysis to see what the pre-sentence report says. Why did the probation office recommend 18 months and she only sentenced to 3 months?
March 19th, Washington Post. In the case of U.S. versus Hawkins, a sex offender had multiple images of child porn over 18. Sentencing guidelines called for sentence up to 10 years. Judge Jackson sentenced the perpetrator to only 3 months in prison. Printed.
Those facts we knew. It's the probation recommendation. We don't dispute that the guidelines said 10 years and she sentenced him to 3 months.
Sorry, I didn't finish reading it. The government probation both recommended sentences well below the guidelines. The government recommended 24 months, probation recommended 18 months, and defense recommended 1 day. I'm telling you, it was published in a newspaper. Now,
well, I can't help what is leaked to the newspaper or not. This committee, you keep referencing discovery. This is not litigation. This is a committee of the United States Senate where both sides of the aisle have a right to access to the record, and we're carrying out our constitutional duty of advice and consent.
I will tell you this, for some reason your side didn't request the information.
But how would we know to request? So I'm hereby requesting all other information you magically have that you haven't told us you have and you're not sharing with the other side.
So noted, for the record. We'll continue with the questioning now.
And we're requesting the pre-sentence reports in particular, which are highly relevant to the issues before
Senator
this
Cotton,
committee.
please proceed. We don't have any pre-sentence reports.
Judge, I'd like to talk about crime. In 2019, there were about 16,000.
Y'all monitor that idiot from Arkansas, because you know he's just gonna he's probably the most heinous and the closest to being a white supremacist out of anybody. If you look at his record, and trust me, he makes Jeff Sessions look like a civil rights activist. That's how heinous Tom Cotton is of Arkansas. Danielle, I want to go to you. They're making a huge deal out of this one particular case when Senator Hirono walked through how many other judges confirmed literally sentence folks downward from what was actually recommended by prosecutors.
Yeah, and I have to say this for the record. This is a dangerous conspiracy theory. The idea, this is a QAnon conspiracy theory, the idea that Judge Jackson, who has more judicial experience than the last 4 nominees put together, is somehow soft on child porn, is a conspiracy theory. And it has been debunked by everyone who has done fact-checking. They were just arguing about the question of whether the Republicans on the committee had access to probation recommendations versus these kind of pre-sentence investigation reports. And all of this, again, the point of these hearings is supposed to be, is the nominee qualified for this job, and what will be their judicial philosophy and their way of ruling on cases at the Supreme Court. There's no indication that the Supreme Court will be sentencing any child pornographers. So the idea that they've kind of captured these hearings by talking so thoroughly about child pornography, and again, the Democrats are trying to redirect. Senator Herrera did an amazing job talking about 30-40% of judges' downward departures in child pornography, partly because Congress hasn't done the work of actually being clear on there's a huge difference in sex offenses that are covered under the statute. But it is, I think, important for all the viewers to note that this charge against Judge Jackson is absolutely false and should not be allowed to capture these hearings.
And then to sit there and, how dare you call this an attack? Well, that's what the hell it is, Tanya.
Yes, the manner in which the questions were asked, the nature of the questions that are asked, they're looking for a needle in a haystack, and there's nothing there. I agree with my co-panelists. She has demonstrated the skill set that is required for one to be a Supreme Court justice. She is highly qualified. She has described in great detail a thoughtful approach to decision-making that is appropriate, and they are trying to distract the viewing audience and also provide some sound bites for the network news tonight to show that there's something here that is outside of the four corners of this woman's distinguished record as a jurist, as a practitioner, and as an American.
The fact that this is the only thing they can seize upon, Damon, I mean, it speaks volumes to for someone to have written nearly 600 opinions, has been the judge for so long. This the best they can do?
Exactly. I mean, this is Pizzagate Redux. I mean, this is exactly what it is. And it is, rather pathetic. It's a distraction. Again, it's not about the nominee. It's not really about her record. It's about making political points. But one thing I do want to lift up in the midst of all of this, let's not lose this, that Judge Jackson's civil rights record is strong. At the Lawyers Committee, we published a report that details our findings about her record. We reviewed it intentionally. And we published a report on our website, lawyerscommittee.org. Everybody can read it, just to show the things that we hold important in our community, the things about the kind of cases we bring in civil rights and racial justice litigation and policy. And so that's what we should really be focused on, not all of these distractions.
Joan, I'll ask you this final question for our legal panel. One, do you believe that Democrats are properly pushing back against the noise of Republicans? Could they be more aggressive? You have the theatrics, obviously, of the folks on the right. You look at Durbin; he is very even tone in terms of how he responds to them. Even you look at, I'd probably say the most aggressive, to be honest, is Sheldon Whitehouse. But also, now we're going to hear from him a little bit later because he's a junior member. I think John Ossoff was very strong yesterday as well. But do you think Democrats have been strong enough in pushing back against the right-wing attacks?
Personally, I believe they are, and this is the reason why. When you listen to the senators, the Democratic senators who are questioning, in their questions, much of what they're giving is commentary to counter what has been presented or the questions asked of the Republicans. So we see that the facts and the data that the distinguished Judge Brown Jackson is not able to provide in her questioning, they are able to provide. So that's one thing. And also even with Senator Durbin, what he did, I thought, was quite good in putting the onus on Congress. If you're really that concerned about child pornography and the guidelines and not getting enough punitive action, then Congress, what are you doing about it? 15 years has passed. What have you done? So I think they are doing an appropriate counter without being overboard, because otherwise then the Republicans would focus on that and would deflect from what we should be focusing on, the record and the qualifications of a wonderful nominee, someone who should be the next Supreme Court justice.
Joan Bullock, Tanya Washington, Danielle Holly Walker, as well as Damon Hewitt. I appreciate y'all joining us. There's more to watch, so I'm sure all of you will be turning back to these hearings to see what craziness comes out next. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, going to go to a break. When we come back from of course, our normal panel, we're going to chat about this as well. We'll also dip back into the hearing to hear what is being said as they continue the confirmation hearing for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, seeking to become the first African-American woman ever to sit on the United States Supreme Court. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I was in the telephone booth on 63rd and 3rd Avenue. Brought my coins in and dialed the number. Mr. Parks, this is Richard Roundtree. Oh, yeah, yes. Well, you know, it looks like you got the role. I didn't know whether I'll go blind. Oh, really? Okay, well, wait. You can't tell anyone. Can I tell my parents? And I'm walking around town, and my fellow actors and models are saying, hey, you know what? Tree, I think I might have gotten that role. You hear this 2 or 3 different times.
Right. You're like, did he
well, wait a minute. Was I dreaming that? Or then Gordon calls me up. I call Gordon, and he says, we're having the press announcing you are the Shaft. I get in the limo, and when I pull up and saw this, oh, Lord. What we used to call, I'm shitting in high cotton.
Yes, in high cotton, yes.
I get out, and all the press is there, and the actors, and I walk in, and Gordon announces, yes, this is Richard Roundtree, and he's going to play the character Shaft. Magic.
I'm Angie Stone. Hi, I'm Teresa Griffin.
Oh, Roland. Hey, Roland. I am so disappointed that you are not here, first of all. Where's our dance? It's like we get a dance in every time I see you. And so now you're not here for me to dance with, sir. You and your ascot. I need it. I need that in my life right now. Okay, I love you, Roland.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Decide what the penalties are. You decide what the factors are that judges use to sentence. If you determine that any set of penalties is insufficient, then it is in your purview to make that determination. There are many crimes that Congress has determined warrant mandatory minimum penalties, warrant other kinds of penalties, and that is in your purview to determine.
I have to say, Judge, I think whether or not we should strengthen or weaken sentences for child pornographers is a pretty simple question, but I'll move on. I think the difference we've heard today gets to this simple fact that a bunch of elite lawyers, whether they're judges or federal prosecutors or public defenders or law professors, think that sentences for child pornography are too harsh. I don't, and I bet a lot of normal Americans don't either. You have said repeatedly that sentencing is a discretionary act, and I understand that and I agree with it. But you always seem to use your discretion in these child pornography cases to reduce the sentences. I have to say, if I had that discretion, I'd probably throw the book at child pornographers. Maybe that's just me. But let's turn to drug crime. Last year, more than 100,000...
maybe it is you, because you're an asshole. and you believe we should be locking people up left and right. That's what you think. Xavier Pope, Teresa Lundy, they join us right now. That's just really what this, Xavier, what it is. Tom Cotton is an asshole. Tom Cotton was the one who opposed the First Step Act because he said we should not be releasing people, we should be putting more people in prison. That's what these idiots are all about.
Roland, this is all about painting Ketanji Brown Jackson as soft on the crime. This is their Willie Horton moment. They finally get to capture, attaching her to criminality. Jussie Smolletting her to Kim Fox mechanism that they're trying to do. They wanted to attach her to something, CRT, crime, whatever they can attach, whatever their bigoted way of approach to the world, they want to latch her onto whatever, Black Lives Matter, whatever the buzzword for the woke mob, they're looking for it, and this is their moment right now.
That's all. That's what it is, Teresa. Pure and simple.
Yeah, I mean, the talking points are very clear for Republicans. They have been saying from the beginning, this is not who we want as our nominee. And as much as Democrats have found a well-qualified, well-deserved woman to sit on the Supreme Court as she did in other areas, these are the talking points that they will be using and that what they will continue to use in order to try to find a correlation of the two, which apparently is not happening. I think people are seeing right through it.
I know we're going to talk to him about another story, but I want to go pull up right now. Houston attorney Taft Foley. Taft, look, you're a lawyer. I know you got thoughts about what you're seeing on Capitol Hill.
Roland, I cannot share those thoughts with you because I happen to be on a committee of 2 congressmen that appoints federal judges to the bench. And so I think it's a conflict of interest for me. Oh, yeah. Well, you definitely can't weigh in on that since you're recommending those judges. But I will say this here. It is quite interesting to listen to people on so many different cases. And Xavier make a point there that I think is important. I just finished reading Will Haygood's book, Showdown, on the Thurgood Marshall confirmation hearings. And literally, what Tom Cotton and the Republicans are doing right now is exactly what the white racist, white supremacist Southern Dixiecrats did in 1967 by saying he is going to be soft on crime. I mean, literally. That was their chief argument against Thurgood Marshall in 1967 because the riots were taking place and they wanted to paint Thurgood Marshall as being absolutely soft on the crime. So these Republicans in 2022 are literally trying to use the exact same playbook of the white supremacist Dixiecrats in 1967 to combat Thurgood Marshall. No shot, both of them appointed by Democratic presidents. The only other black Supreme Court nominee was Clarence Thomas, appointed by Republican George H.W. Bush. So just wanted to make that point. We have Taft on to talk about the story out of Houston, of course. We had him on before. This just unbelievably strange story where this young brother shot and killed in his front yard. Cops roll up unmarked cars. He doesn't have no idea who they are. They claim that he fired at them. But we showed the video. We didn't hear any shots fired from him. They've now filed this federal lawsuit against the 4 Houston police officers who shot and killed him in February. And so Charion Lockett was a young man, a graduate, Sam Houston State University. And so, Taft, tell us about this lawsuit against these 4 officers, as well as the Houston police chief. Okay, well, Brother Martin, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I firmly believe that there is no better forum in the entire country for speaking truth to justice than your show. And so on behalf of all people who look and act and walk and talk like me, I'm very thankful for having you as a venue.
Appreciate it.
It is impossible to discuss this case without first talking about the devil. The devil is a wolf in sheep's clothing that disguises himself under a cloak of justice. And this devil appears in every civil lawsuit filed against a municipality or police officer in America.
The devil that I'm referring to is called qualified immunity. As you are well aware and you've discussed on your show repeatedly, qualified immunity is a standard that has been passed down through case decisions in the federal court system for years and years and years. This standard holds the police to a higher degree than it holds the average citizen with respect to answering for civil rights violations. And so let's just get that out the way. Anytime you file a lawsuit in the United States against a police officer, you're up against this devil that we call qualified immunity. And this devil requires a number of things get pled into your lawsuit. The first thing that the lawsuit had to do was show a pattern and practice of previous violations against police officers in the city of Houston. We've got that. The same officers involved in this lawsuit have been involved in a pattern and practice of aggressive behavior, police brutality, and countless other incidents involving the violation of civil rights in America. When you see them pull up, as you have on your screen right now, with a gun held out the window, that is a clear-cut violation of a person's Fourth Amendment right that protects you against unlawful searches and seizures. You do not hear them saying, "Stop, freeze, police." They're required to announce themselves, and the lawsuit includes allegations about them violating standard protocol with respect to apprehending a suspect. The second thing that this lawsuit alleges is poor training and supervision. And last but not least, qualified immunity, in order to get over that hurdle, we've got to establish clear established law that was violated. And what that means is that we've got to show Supreme Court decisions and circuit court decisions that are directly on point with the same type of aggressive brutality and violations of civil rights that you see on the camera right now. And we believe that we've done that in this lawsuit. Before I move on, I just want to say, Brother Roland, that our Congress and President need to do more to act to abolish qualified immunity in America. It's an unfair standard. It's unfair to the average American citizen that the rules are different for the police than they are for us. And I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a courtroom and faced a smug look on attorneys' faces that represent the state, because when they walk in those doors, that they have the devil on their side. So I've got to fight against them. I've got to fight against this devil called qualified immunity. And the facts aren't good enough. You don't even get to the facts in a civil rights case in the United States of America that involves a police officer unless you satisfy these hurdles called qualified immunity. Now, I believe we've done that in this lawsuit. I think this case is clear-cut. Our client does not pull a gun on anybody on video. The police pulled up on him without announcing themselves as officers. And then there's several things wrong with the warrants that they secured in order to even have probable cause to arrest our client. What your viewers need to understand, Brother Roland, is that the police officers and criminals who break the law are on a level playing field when it comes to stupidity. It takes a certain level of officer to put false, misleading information in a warrant, as we believe occurred in this case. The facts pled in our lawsuit clearly established that the officers, in order to secure this warrant, had to get 2 bites at the apple. And what's strange in this case is that the first warrant doesn't match the second warrant. When you compare the information from the first warrant to the second warrant, it's 2 completely different sets of circumstances when it comes to the interview of the individual who they relied on to secure this warrant. So I believe that we have pled a good case of a civil rights violation. Unfortunately, we can't bring this young man back, but what we can do is see to it that his family gets the justice that they deserve. The picture that you're showing is the picture of a young man who graduated, who has a bachelor's degree, who has a master's degree in criminal justice, and was studying for the law school admissions test at the time these officers pulled up and shot him down in the doorway of his home. We can't bring Charion Lockett back, but we will do everything that we can in our power to see to it that his family gets some modicum of justice, and that these officers have to answer for this cold, callous, unreasonable death of a loving, caring, law-abiding citizen of Houston, Texas.
Tab Foley, we appreciate you speaking about this federal lawsuit and laying it out. We certainly can't wait to see what the reaction from the city of Houston is going to be.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I want to show my panel this, because if y'all want to understand literally how crazy today's Republican Party is, this right here, y'all, is Indiana Senator Mike Braun. He talked about a number of things in this interview where he said the United States Supreme Court should overturn Roe v. Wade. But he also said this.
With the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage to the states?
Yes, I think that that's something that if you're not wanting the Supreme Court to weigh in on issues like that, you're not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. I think that's hypocritical.
What about Griswold versus Connecticut?
Well, you can list a whole host of issues. When it comes down to whatever they are, I'm going to say that they're not going to all make you happy within a given state, but that we're better off having states manifest their points of view rather than homogenizing it across the country as Roe versus Wade did.
So you would be okay with the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage to the states?
Yes, I think that that's something that if you're not wanting the Supreme Court to weigh in on issues like that, you're not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. I think that's hypocritical.
So, Teresa, this fool is literally saying, sure, overturn Loving versus Virginia and leave it up to the states.
So it's actually interesting. It's actually the first time I'm hearing about that. But again, if we start doing some of those type of rollbacks, we'll have some of the issues that we will today. We will have this miscommunication and some of the misinformation that is happening. So obviously, it was a bit of a delusional comment to say, but this is the narrative that is being put out.
But see, but Xavier, what people need to understand, and I really need folks who watch this show to understand why we treat this show, in essence, as Civics 101. Dr. Maya Angelou once said, she says, Roland, you're a teacher. I said, no, I'm not. She said, no, you teach on television. She said, because I watch you, you do. Here's the deal. Everybody listen to me clearly, because I need black people listening to me to understand. When you start repeating states' rights, I need everybody to understand that the argument of states' rights, federal overreach, is literally the language of white supremacy. The basis of Jim Crow was based upon states' rights. I don't know how many of y'all saw the movie Free State Jones. I think it was called Free State Jones. Matthew McConaughey. It was a Civil War era movie, and they sent this white guy to prison, but he's actually biracial. They sent him to prison, but then the Mississippi State Supreme Court, throughout the decision, I think this was like 1939, they threw out the decision and released him from prison because they feared the Supreme Court overruling them and declaring that one-drop rule to be illegal. So this guy was biracial. He was going to marry a white woman. The Mississippi law said you can't do that. But the Mississippi State Supreme Court was so cognizant of the U.S. Supreme Court, they said, no. So, no, hold up. Let's go ahead and release him Because if we affirm the lower court ruling and they go to Supreme Court, they actually might make interracial marriage legal. Y'all, that was almost 30 years before Loving versus Virginia. And so people need to understand, when I hear black people hollering states' rights, I'm going, do you understand that that was used against us to prevent all of our civil rights for 92 years from the Great Compromise of 1877 all the way through the 1960s when the three most important civil rights acts were passed?
Roland, I hear a lot of times all politics is local, but freedoms are national. And we have to recognize the fact that what Republicans and those that avow themselves to white supremacy understand, and that's why we've seen some of the rollbacks in terms of some of the Texas abortion law and some of the CRT laws being passed, voter suppression laws, is the specific attack right where certain politics and certain animus towards people of color, marginalized groups live. And they want to be able to create their own racist, ethno-nationalist pocket where they are. And so the government, in terms of in how it's been structured, in terms even in our interpretation of the Constitution, with the Supreme Court being a check on the other branches of government, specifically has set itself up so that states do not go beyond what they're supposed to do to be able to abridge the rights of African Americans and other marginalized groups. That's what it's for. And we have to recognize for what this is. What Republicans are seeking to do, and what you heard in that clip, is I want my own pocket and slice of bigotry. And it's another form of segregation. We have our bigoted system here. You can have your liberal, inward loving system over there.
Right.
Well, the problem is when you get that to expand to other states, that impacts what the country is. And that's why it's dangerous, Roland.
But see, but I want to pick up on that point. I want to stay with this for a little bit more before I go to a break to go to my next guest. Because, Teresa, you're there in Pennsylvania. And what I need people to understand is that Republicans were so angry with the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court and the rulings that they made regarding mail-in balloting that Republicans actually tried to stop state Supreme Court justices in Pennsylvania from being elected statewide. And they actually wanted them to be elected from districts. Now, somebody who's watching, they might say, well, Roland, I don't see what the big deal is. I mean, we have state reps, we have state senators. Because what they were angry about, what they wanted to do is exactly what Xavier just said. Their deal is, all right, so, yeah, Teresa, if you know offhand the number of Supreme Court justices, let me know. But let's say it's 9 in Pennsylvania. So what they were saying is, all right, well, let's see here. Well, one might come from Allegheny County, that's Pittsburgh. One might come from Philadelphia area, that's 2. So we're gonna have the other 7 elected from the other parts of Pennsylvania, which will guarantee, listen to me clearly, people, which will guarantee a conservative 7-2 majority forever. And by doing that, their deal is, oh, well, we can negate the votes of all y'all black people and you liberal suburban people in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania to guarantee we have power. Now, there's somebody who's watching right now, and somebody may say, well, Roland, I don't see what the big deal is. But y'all, that's why we got problems right now in Georgia and Texas. Because these rural conservatives, because the districts are set up that way, are literally controlling the legislature because the population has moved to the larger urban areas, But because of land, they still hold power in those seats. That's why this states' rights argument is dangerous, Teresa.
You're absolutely right. And I think that's why it's so important that we have, a diverse elected officials in some of those cases. So we had a Democratic Attorney General who was able to stop some of those mail-in balloting issues. And then we had a leading vice chair of the Democratic Pennsylvania Party that was also very vocal in those decision-making issues. But when we start talking about the PA State Supreme Court, believe me, 2017, I was, working on one of those campaigns statewide. And it's kind of hard because when you run a judicial campaign, the campaigns when you're running with a state rep and a city council person is very different when you're running with someone who is in the judicial system, because there are things that they may or may not have opinions on. But when we start to look at the makeup of some of these state Supreme Courts, the makeup does not look like it's representative of the entire 67 counties that is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So they're not looking as, from color, from race, from diversity and inclusion. So we're not getting some of those points, which means some of the issues that are coming to them will have a very kind of the rural focus lens that you brought about, that you talked about. And so that also, and just so many cases that have been coming up that, again, may surpass the Commonwealth Court, but it'll go straight to the Supreme Court. So that's something that we definitely need to take a look at.
Yeah, and again, I just want people to understand, again, what is happening here and why these nuances matter as we break this thing down. What we're going to do. We're going to go to a break. We're going to take about 2 minutes of Senator Cory Booker questioning Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson right now, and then we're going to go to a break. Then we'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Provocative, and that doesn't mean I agree with what he's saying, his philosophy. Doesn't mean I agree with his statements. But he pointed out you also called the author acclaimed. She won a Pulitzer Prize, correct?
She did.
In journalism. So she is acclaimed.
She is.
But in nowhere are you heralding her as this is reflective of your philosophy. That's true, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I don't understand that at all. Part of his chart also was a lot of ellipses, skipping out things, but you mentioned critical race theory when you're talking about policies in general. I actually went back to that talk too, and I saw you threw everything in there. You were talking about psychology, economics, all different types of disciplines as touching upon the law. I think there was everything in there, I seem to be, except for astrology. But you understand that you were just listing a list of things that people could say touch the law. They weren't your philosophies at all.
Correct, Senator. And that speech was not related to what I do as a judge. That was talking about sentencing policy and all of the different academic disciplines that might relate to it.
Yeah, and then finally, we're entering an age that is surprising to me in American society, where lots of books are being banned and lots of talks about books being read. You're on the board of a private school, and you have no supervision or authority over what books the children read in a private school, correct?
Correct.
I really do appreciate that. Jumping really quickly to a lot of talk today about these child exploitation cases. And Senator Durbin, I think that actually Josh Hawley used the word attack when describing his own, so I don't understand what that point of sensitivity was. But I individual cases, and we've now heard about 2, you've presided over as a judge more than 10, 15 cases?
I've presided over 14 cases that involve child sex crimes, but over my career as a trial judge, I've presided over more than 100.
Right, and cases are heavily fact-specific, right?
That is true.
Did you remember all the facts of the case that Senator Hawley was?
I did not.
You did not, right. And the facts matter, right?
They do.
And as a judge, you're looking at all of the facts of the case, not just what might be talked about later or what people are honing in. You have to take everything into account and make a decision, correct?
Yes, that's what Congress has required judges to do.
Right, and just to clarify that Congress thing, because again, you went to this elite law school. I went to a gritty inner city law school, Yale. So you know this better than me, but it was actually 1984 that the sentencing laws, the sentencing standards were passed down, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it was 1984. And then later in 2002 or 3, things were updated. But that 1984 was before the internet completely. And I just want to clarify also the Booker decision.
Yes.
Could you just clarify for the record, because my mom might be watching, no relation to me whatsoever, correct?
So the Booker decision, which earlier I mentioned that I thought Justice Scalia wrote it. In fact, it was Justice Stevens.
Yes.
But Justice Scalia concurred, so he had a separate opinion, and he had written a previous decision that was very similar.
Yes.
The Booker decision made the guidelines, the sentencing guidelines, advisory.
Why? Why would the Supreme Court, joined by some of the most conservative members, why would they do that?
Well, they determined that, in essence, the Booker, that if the guidelines were mandatory, that it would violate the right to a jury trial to have jurors decide every aspect of your sentencing.
Yeah,
So,
it's just sort of the separation of powers, Sixth Amendment.
yes,
This is really important.
yes,
And so that gave judges latitude.
yes.
Now, if you were falling out of the norm, and this is where, you know, I've now read conservative periodicals looking at this line of attack. That's not a negative pejorative. Again, my colleague himself used it, but this line of attack on you, I've seen conservative papers, liberal papers, mainstream papers, all say this doesn't hold water. And the reason is, and again, unlike White House and Cruz, I don't have a chart. I'm uncharted. But I would like to hold this up for you. You are well within the norm nationally for going below the sentencing guidelines because of this problem where you have this incongruency that judges on both sides of that have been pointed by people of both sides of the aisle have seen. I just want to make that very clear. You are well within the norm in the United States of America. I'm a former mayor, and one of my favorite mayor friends used to always say, "In God we trust, but everybody else bring me data." And
On the next
so the data
Balanced Life, and as we grind down to the end of another long winter, it's easy to slip out of balance and into the foggy doldrums. On the next A Balanced Life, ways to push through the gray days until the warm days of spring arrive. Join me, Dr. Jackie, on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Eric Nolan.
I'm Shantae Moore.
Hi, my name is Latoya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Chloe Mays has been missing from Columbia, South Carolina since March 16th. The 17-year-old is 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighs 165 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. Chloe has a nose ring and could require medical attention. Anyone with information on Chloe Mays' whereabouts, they should call the Columbia, South Carolina Police Department at 803-543-3500, 803-543-3500. 3500. And so, you know, we constantly are talking about this and trying to give attention to a lot of these critically important cases that do not get attention from mainstream media. All right, folks, in Alabama, a black liquor store owner is suing a police department in the city after getting punched in the face by cops when he called for help in March of last year, 2020, I'm sorry. Kevin Penn called Decatur to police when the store was being robbed. When police arrived, Penn and the officers had a brief verbal exchange. Penn was punched in the face by an officer. He was wrestled, slammed to the ground, arrested, and charged with obstructing a robbery investigation. He's the one who called. Penn suffered a broken jaw and a few broken teeth. His lawsuit claims city officials failed to ensure officers were properly trained and supervised. The officer who punched Penn has not faced any disciplinary actions for this incident. No shock, it's Alabama. In a horrific story out of California, 2 white supremacists are now charged with murder and a hate crime after they allegedly killed a black man at a gas station last week. Folks, Christina Lynn Garner and Jeremy Wayne Jones shot and stabbed Justin Peoples. There's no clear motive presently, but prosecutors say he was targeted and killed because of race, color, religion, nationality, or country of origin. Justin's father, Maurice Peoples, is ready to fight for justice for his son.
This is where racism stops, right here. Racism stops right here. Justice for justice. And I always hurt. You know, I wouldn't wish this upon one of my worstest enemies. You know, it's going to be a hard, long trial and tribulations with me in my heart.
Well, Justin was on his way to get quarters for laundry while his girlfriend waited in the car. The 30-year-old was a father, Navy veteran, and a youth pastor. A former Google employee is suing the tech giant, saying it engages in a pattern and practice of racial discrimination against black workers. The lawsuit alleges the company steers black workers into lower-level and lower-paid jobs and subjects them to a hostile work environment if they speak out. April Curley was hired in 2014 to recruit black candidates for the company. Her lawsuit claims she was unlawfully fired in 2020 after she began speaking out and called for reform of the barriers and double standards Google imposed on black employees as well as applicants. Attorney Ben Crump says he hopes this lawsuit will show companies that black employees are great employees as well.
These women tried to sound their alarm, tried to raise awareness about the discriminatory and bigoted culture. And when they raised awareness about the racist, toxic culture, Google did not retaliate against the racist culture, but they retaliated against these victims of the racist culture that exists in Google. Google says core value number 1 is to work with great people. Well, if you take the allegations of these minorities and you look at the data, then one would conclude that apparently Google believes great people are white people. Well, with this lawsuit, we're proclaiming to Google that black people and brown people are great people too.
All right, folks, let's talk about reparations in the state of California. A lot of folks have been shouting about reparations and what needs to happen on the federal level, but California became the first state to actually establish a task force to study the issue. Of course, the whole point of that 9-member task force is to gather evidence, listen to expert testimony on the transatlantic slave trade, as well as hold public hearings. Now, my next guest, her name is Camilla Moore. She's an attorney, chairperson of the committee, and she joins us right now from LA. Glad to have you on the show, Camilla. So let's talk about this because, again, this was Stephen Bradford, a state official there, was involved, very heavily involved in making this happen. You've had folks folks have been trying to take credit. ADOS has been trying to say they made it happen. FBA has been trying to make it happen. But there have been folks in California who've been fighting for this a very long time before any of these folks start using any of these letters, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I get a kick out of people who lay claim to something. So exactly, how many meetings have y'all had? What has actually been done thus far?
Great. Thank you for having me, Roland. Happy to be here. So the 9-member task force has met since June of last year, and we've had about 7 to 8 substantive hearings starting at September 2021. So essentially, the task force scopes and powers are predicated on AB 3121, which is a legislative statute that was authored by then California Assembly member Shirley Weber, who is now the California Secretary of State, and it was signed into law by California Governor Gavin Newsom in September 2020. So essentially, the law requires the 9-member task force to examine slavery as it existed in the United States, including California, discrimination in the public and private sectors against those who were enslaved and their descendants. And it also requires the task force to recommend how California will issue a formal apology to those slaves and their descendants, and how to eliminate discrimination in existing state laws as it applies to those descendants. And then lastly, the task force is also required to determine how any potential compensation should be calculated, who should be eligible, as well as additional forms of rehabilitation and restitution.
And there are people who are out there saying, if you had any immigrant family in your lineage, you should not be qualifying for any of this. But how do you even determine? We talk about determine who qualifies. How do you even get to that particular point? Again, what if somebody like I love these people who first of all they claim that I'm not a full American because on my mama's paternal side they migrated from Haiti in the 1800s, and I'm like, what? So what about the other 3 grandparents, fools?
Right. So the question of the community of eligibility, it's been an ongoing conversation that the task force has been debating. And to your point about the question of eligibility for compensation, for instance, should it be specifically or solely to Black Americans who can trace their lineage or ancestry to someone who was enslaved in the United States? And in your personal viewpoint, given that you have lineage who were enslaved here in the United States, you would also be eligible, even though you also have a grandparent from Haiti or who migrated from Haiti to the 1800s. But then there were...
No, go ahead.
But then there are other, the other argument is for a race-based approach where, all Black people, regardless of immigrant or national origin, should be eligible for reparations. So that very debate is what we're discussing at the task force, and we're coming to a vote on that very question at our next task force hearing on Tuesday, March 29th.
But isn't part of this issue, even with that, trying to, if you're trying to trace your background, that means that people are going to have to undertake, it's going to be a cost to actually trace your background. There's a bunch of people walking around who say that I'm from here, they can't go past their great-great-grandparents. And so if you start trying to trace back to slavery, you're now talking about a records search. That's not, hell, you can walk into the Skip Gates genealogy stuff and realize that ain't easy.
Right. Excellent comment. So at our next hearing on March 29th, before the task force, discusses amongst ourselves and comes to a vote around the community of eligibility, we'll be hearing from a series of witnesses, and 6 of them are certified genealogists who will weigh on the question or the feasibility of a genealogical or lineage-based approach. So one of these people that we've invited is Hollis Gentry, who's a lead genealogist at the National Museum for African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., amongst other very well-known genealogists. So if folks are interested in following that discussion, I would definitely make sure that you all are tuned in at our hearing on Tuesday.
So this hearing is going to be live streamed?
Yes, it'll be live streamed on Blue Jeans.
Okay. Questions from, let's start with you, Teresa.
Yeah. Well, one, thank you so much for actually bringing that to our attention. So what are some of the key points we should be looking for in this discussion?
In terms of eligibility?
Eligibility, yes.
Okay, so for instance, for those who are advocating for a lineage-based approach, just to give an update, constitutional law scholar Erwin Chemerinsky, who's also the dean of UC Berkeley Law School, he came to provide expert testimony to the task force this past February, and essentially he argued that a lineage-based approach would most likely pass constitutional muster as opposed to a race-based approach, because race-based programs, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, are highly suspect and would have to go through strict scrutiny standards, which is the highest form of scrutiny under equal protection standards, whereas a lineage-based claim would not be race-based and thus would only have to go through a rational basis review, which is a much lower standard of scrutiny. So that's one major point. But then also Secretary Weber, who I said in my first comments, was the lead author of AB 3121. She also came to the task force to provide expert testimony on her legislative intent. And this occurred in January of this year. And essentially, she made it clear about who she felt should be eligible for reparations when she authored the bill. And she stated that that community of eligibility should be comprised of only Black Americans, descendants of chattel slavery, and also folks who are Black Americans who can trace their ancestry to a free person of color or a free African American, in order to acknowledge the unique African American history, whereby during enslavement, there obviously were enslaved Africans, but then there were also free Black people who so happened to be emancipated before 1865, who were also working to free their, enslaved brothers and sisters and family members. And so, it also should be noted that Secretary Weber, before she entered into politics, she was a professor of Africana Studies in the Cal State system. And so she came to the January hearing to kind of share that unique history of African Americans, whether our ancestors being enslaved or were emancipated before 1865.
Xavier.
Thank you for your tireless work to be dedicated toward a worthy cause, and it is a stain on this country that it hasn't recompensed its former descendants of former enslaved folks. I had a question. I mean, there is this movement for reparations in various states, like New Jersey, New York, and California. What say you, with all the different passages of critical race theory legislation in various red states, that some of this movement, we talked earlier in the program about states' rights and various mechanisms to be able to protect rights of people of color, when we see maybe a potential backlash and looking what you're doing, and maybe going in some of the other states and maybe changing or editing some of the CRT legislation to include conversations, even studies or commissions on reparations? And how do you butt up against some of the politics that come with that?
That's an excellent question. So it's not lost on me that, California is the first state in the nation to implement a reparations task force to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans. California is known to be a more liberal state as compared to, some of the other states in the union. We also beat the federal government. Congress is pretty much deadlocked on, the issue of HR 40, and we're not sure, when a federal reparations effort will come into play. And so that's why this task force is so important. But to answer your question more directly, it's about being strategic and creating a broad-based coalition of supporters for this task force who can explain through their own organizational vantage points the importance of this. And so then also there could be some meetings offline, some strategy sessions offline to ensure to prevent something like that from happening. Mm-hmm.
All right, then. Well, again, tell folks the date of the hearing and where they can actually watch it.
Yes, so the date of the hearing, it's Tuesday, March 29th and Wednesday, March 30th. So on Tuesday, March 29th will be a day dedicated to the community of eligibility, as I said. We've extended the public comment period because of the interest. So public comment will be from 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 10 a.m. And then we'll have some business and then hear from our witnesses on the concept of eligibility. Then we'll break for lunch. And then that's when the 9-member task force will discuss eligibility and then hopefully come to a vote on that particular issue. And then the next day, we have a full day dedicated to criminal justice issues. So we're going to hear from folks who are going to provide expert and personal testimony on the criminal legal system and anti-African American hate crimes and bias. And so folks can find the agenda at oag.ca.gov/AB3121. You can also follow me on Twitter at Camila V. Moore for more information. Thank you so much.
All right, Camila, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
All right, folks, got to go to see. The hearing's still going on? All right, let's dip back into that, just hear what they're saying, and then we're going to go to a break.
Speaking, and it's a lot of early mornings and late nights. And what that means is there will be hearings during your daughter's recitals. There'll be emergencies on birthdays that you have to handle. And I know so many young women in this country, especially who have small kids, who have these momentous events and have to make a choice. You talked about your mom making the choice to make sure that she cared for you in that moment. And there are times when obviously you have to care for your family members. There are other times when there are events that you wish you could be a part of, but here's the emergency case that you have to deal with. And so I said in my opening that girls, you've had to deal with me juggling motherhood and job responsibilities, and I didn't always get the balance right. And so I would hope for them seeing me, hopefully you all will confirm me, seeing me moved to the Supreme Court, that they can know that you don't have to be perfect in your career trajectory and you can still end up doing what you want to do, that you just have to understand that there are lots of responsibilities in the world and that you don't have to be a perfect mom, but if you do your best and you love your children, that things will turn out okay.
Well, I'm sure your mom probably feels she wasn't perfect, but things have turned out okay. And I will tell you this, I'm sure they've said it, and if they haven't, I'm sure they will. The older I get, the more I appreciate my parents. I know they're proud of you, but as a guy who does have faith, and I sit at home in a room of my ancestors where I have generations of my ancestors' pictures up, and they're black folk and white folk. I have a very interesting family tree. I sit there to feel my ancestors sometimes and think about them. I hope right now, in this questions and blistering, that you know that at that desk there are a whole lot of spirits around you with their hands on you. Not only your children and your parents proud, but so are your ancestors.
Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Green.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
U.S. Senate, they are on a break. They started at 9 this morning, and so they are now in recess. Look, this thing is going to go on and on and on. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, she's answering all of these different questions. Before we went to break, you saw Senator Cory Booker. I believe after this break, you're going to see then Senator John Ossoff of Georgia. So the way it works, the senior members of the committee, they go first. And so that's the order. And so the youngest members, well, they go last. That's why Booker and Ossoff are further down. And so when they come back, we'll go back live. All right, folks, Soul Snack Cookies were founded in 1996 by a black entrepreneur looking to change the snack game, like he changed the way drums were played. The company offers a variety of delicious cookies, and according to the founder, Ralph Roland, they are so delicious. He joins us now from the Bronx. So, Ralph, you were a drummer?
Yes, I am. I've been a drummer now for over 40 years, about 44 years. Yes, sir.
Who you played with?
Oh, well, currently I play with Nile Rodgers and Chic. I've played with Freddie Jackson. I recorded with Notorious B.I.G. I'm on the soundtrack of Rocket Man and Cats and Alex Bugnon, Glenn Jones, Stephanie Mills, Sting, Bono, Roger Daltrey, Paul Simon. The list, there's been quite a few folks. Oh, and I was the drummer at Showtime at the Apollo with Ray Chu and the crew and Steve Harvey.
All right, then. Ray Chu is my man. Great list there. So where the hell these snacks come from? How did that happen?
I started as a young kid baking. I learned from my grandmother when I was a very, very young boy. We used to go to my grandmother's house, and my cousin was there. There was my aunt's house, and my grandmother lived with her. But the only two boys in the house was me and my cousin Vincent, and we was really young. When my grandmother used to bake, she would give us the honor of the bowl, and you know the bowl. And we would sit at the kitchen table.
Well, look, the reason I know, my mom had a cake business. So, so she did cakes professionally, wedding cakes, birthday cakes. So I'm very familiar with the bowl, the batter, whether it's looking at, tasting. Mama, look, the icing is too bitter, it's too sweet. That's one reason why I don't even like icing on my cake. Right. I tasted so much damn icing growing up. Just put the filling in the cake, leave the icing off.
Wow, that's funny. So you understand 100%.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So, so when did you say, all right, I'm going to make this a business? And what precipitated that? Were y'all on the road, or you had some bad snacks? You like, oh, I can do better than this.
No, I had been baking for many years, and when I was a kid, that was my way to meet girls in my neighborhood, because I didn't, I was a nerdy kid, pretty smart in school.
Wait, hold on. You were like, baby, I'm gonna bake something for you.
No.
So the drumming didn't work, but the baking did?
No, I wasn't drumming that much then. I was a brand new kid. I didn't even have a drum set until about a year before I turned professional. I played on everybody else's kit.
Wow.
My brother, he sold the drum set because my mother put him out because he got his girlfriend pregnant. But the good thing is that they stayed together, and they're still together 50 years later.
Wow.
So, but I love the drums, and I just started baking, so I would give girls like some cookies or a cupcake or something like that. Oh, that's so nice. She's so sweet. And it just kind of formed into Soul Snacks. When my girlfriend moved in, we decided to give away gifts for the holidays. And we had about 36 friends and family, and we didn't have enough money, Cookies, I suggested making the cookies. So all we sent out was the chocolate chip cookies. That was the recipe from my grandmother, which is a over 100-year-old recipe. And I was at Melba's open mic night at Sylvia's in New York City. And it just so happens the night that we had the cookies there was a guy from YSB Magazine who tasted the cookies, liked what he tasted, and said, "Can I do an interview?" And I told him, "Listen, it's me and my girlfriend here. She's from the projects like me. She graduated from Juilliard. I'm the drummer down the street at the Apollo Theater." And he thought it was a very interesting story. The article came out, and I didn't even have a number to give them. I gave him my sister's pager number, which was crazy. It was the one with the little pin number on it. We thought we'd get a couple of calls, maybe a couple of orders. That turned into maybe 4 orders, 5 orders, 6 orders the first day. Then the second day, 10, 20. Then after that, it started going crazy. So I had to move out of the apartment and find my first baking facility, which was my friend Patrice's mother's house. And I gutted her brownstone apartment and put in a convection oven, a 3-tub sink, a ventilation system, storage area, office, and preparation area. That was our first place. Now we're moving into a 2,100 square foot facility, and we're actually putting the culinary arts program in the space while we bake cookies. So I'm really excited about that.
Teresa, you got a question?
Yeah, well, thank you, Ralph, for taking your delicious snacks to the next level.
Yes,
so, where can we? I'm in Philadelphia. Buy your Soul Snacks cookies.
Okay, well, if you go to soulsnacks.com, you can purchase the cookies. You will get our original brand, or if you on April 1st. We are rolling out in a big way nationally in Walmart in 789 stores. You can find the product there, which is more of a crunchy cookie. Our classic line is a softer cookie. Both are good product. We spend pay a lot of attention to detail, spend a lot of time, with the heart, soul, and pride of the product. And soulsnacks.com is where you can get it.
So how many different snacks do you have?
Right now we have 18. We just started a line of vegan, gluten-free flavors, which is doing really well.
Gotcha. All right, then. Now, supposedly some was sent to the office. Did y'all eat them? Y'all... so, hold up. Were they sent to the office or not? Because y'all... I think all y'all lying. I think all y'all lying. Because I think some snacks were sent to the office, and y'all just telling me that they never arrived. Matter of fact, Ralph, if y'all send some snacks, I'm gonna give you my home address. I don't trust them coming to the office, cause it's amazing. They all looking at me like, yeah, no, they never got here.
I'll make sure you get some, sir.
All right, then. Last question. How many stores are you in? Are you doing largely online, but are you national?
We are national with Walmart as of April 1st.
Oh, cool.
They gave us 789 stores. We're also in Kroger. We're waiting for Kroger to give us our stores. But you can actually order, like I mentioned, our original line from the website on soulsnacks.com.
Okay, somebody asked, Cheryl asked on YouTube, do they freeze well?
You know what they do? They do freeze well. We don't use any preservatives in our product. Even the product in Walmart, we don't use any preservatives.
Okay, all right then. Well, Ralph, man, congratulations on Soul Snacks. Can't wait to try them. It's not like I don't need them. But I got to go ahead and try them. I was on a golf course today, so got to work on the course. So we got to lose some of the midsection. But definitely,
I understand.
Congratulations on the Soul Snacks.
Thank you.
Until now, tell Niles what's going on. Can't wait to sit down and chop it up with him.
Yeah, on the website, all the Walmart stores are listed there. If you go there, you see every store in every state that they're in.
Okay, all right. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. All right, then. YouTube people. Now, why I got to keep doing this every single day, okay? Right now, it's 543 likes on our page. Now, look, it's almost 2,000 of y'all watching us live right now. Y'all, I should not have to be asking y'all. I feel like a preacher having to ask y'all to give. All y'all got to do is click the doggone like button, okay? So stop. Look, you're watching for free, okay? Just click the doggone like button. We should be hitting 1,000 likes on Roland Martin Unfiltered YouTube channel every single day. 1,000 likes. We should not be 2 hours into the show and be barely over 500. And so y'all need to go ahead and hit that doggone like button. So I'm gonna read a couple of more stories, but I'm gonna need y'all to get us to 1,000 before I sign off, okay? This don't make no doggone sense. It's at 773 right now. So y'all come on, hit that doggone button. So stop having me having to ask y'all to hit the like button. I mean, you should be doing it on general principle, okay? That's what you should be doing. And so So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to read this last story. Deals with Stacey Abrams. She's actually going to court over the issue of fundraising. Now, you may say, okay, that makes no sense, but it does because, of course, she's running for governor, the Democratic nomination. She, of course, wants to face, you got Perdue who's running against Brian Kemp. But on Monday, she filed a lawsuit challenging the new fundraising committees created by Georgia lawmakers last year. She says the committees are unconstitutional. Now, those leadership committees allow unlimited contributions. An incumbent governor and an opposing major party nominee can form such committees. Abrams argues she's a Democratic nominee because she's unopposed and can start a leadership committee before the May 24th primary. Abrams claims it's unfair to let Republican Governor Brian Kemp raise unlimited funds. State officials are seeking legal advice on whether Abrams can be considered the nominee before May 24th. Well, hell, she running unopposed? What y'all think that is? Now, granted, she hasn't officially won, but she ain't got no competition, so hell yeah, she's the nominee. I don't see what the deal is. So we're watching that. And also, folks, look, we're at 977. Y'all hurry up and get to 1,000. All right, y'all. Hampton University will invite 50 to 100 Ukrainian and international college students studying in Ukraine to continue their education on Hampton's campus. HU President Dr. William Harvey says the invitation is an effort to help college students and families affected by the current conflict in Ukraine. Ukrainian and international college students affected by the war will be able to attend classes at HU for the 2022 summer session, receive room, board, and tuition for the summer, and have the option to stay at the university at the regular tuition and fee rates once the summer session is over. And so, and again, and so now all y'all, see a whole bunch of y'all been out there running y'all miles. I don't know why Hampton doing that for the damn Ukrainian students. Did y'all miss the part where it says Ukrainian and other international students? Remember, there were 24 Jamaican students who were studying in Ukraine. There were some students from Nigeria who were studying there as well. So calm the hell down. It's not just Ukrainian students. It's Ukrainian and international students. And so just want to give y'all the update there on what Hampton is doing. All right. Did we finally hit 1,000 likes? If so, I can get out of here. Let me see. Okay. All right, fine. We hit 1,000 likes. All right, good. So y'all, YouTube, can y'all every day get with it? All right, y'all. Here's the deal. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in New York City tomorrow. There's a conference taking place dealing with black coaches and minority coaches. Brian Flores is going to be there. Y'all know I'm going to ask him, say, bro, why you ain't come on the show yet? You've been emailing your attorneys. So how you suing the NFL on race? You ain't come to the black show. So I'm going to be at that conference, and then I'm also, I was going to actually come back to do the show from here, but Spike Lee is doing a documentary on Colin Kaepernick. I'm going to be doing an interview with them. So I'm going to be doing the show tomorrow from 40 Acres and a Mule in Brooklyn, Spike Lee's production house studios. And so I'll be broadcasting live tomorrow from Brooklyn, as he always says. He calls it the state of the state of Brooklyn. He calls it the country of Brooklyn. What does he call it? He acts like that's their own country. So I'll be there. So that's happening tomorrow. And so, but it don't matter. We still gonna be doing the show. We have the latest on the confirmation hearings of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's it, folks. Don't forget, if you want to support us in what we do, please download the Black Star Network app. We're trying to get to 50,000 downloads. We're approaching 40,000 now. The Apple phone, the Android phone, Android TV, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Xbox One, as well as the Samsung Smart TV. Download it on. If you got five of those devices, download all five. All five. Have the Black Star Network everywhere. On your phone, on your Apple TV, on your Roku, on your Android TV, on your Samsung Smart TV, on your Xbox. I got it on all my Samsung Smart TVs, my Rokus, and my iPhones and iPads as well. And don't forget, y'all, please, your dollars matter, allowing for you to support the work that we do. Again, our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing at least $50 each. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. If you can't give $50 a year, we understand. It's no problem. Give whatever you can afford. We appreciate every single dollar that you give. It makes a difference in terms of what we're doing. And so you can give check or money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037. Of course, Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, that is it. I shall see you tomorrow from New York City. Talk to you. Holla!